Hello friends, welcome back to the next session on Service Operations Management. Now let's begin with our learning. In this particular session, we'll be understanding and dealing with the concepts of applications in innovation and service operations. At the end of this particular session, the learners will be able to understand what do we mean by applications in innovation and service operations, what is the importance of applications in innovations and service operations, what are the various factors that affect the applications, and lastly, what will the activities that have been undertaken. Now let's understand initially what do we mean by applications in innovations and the service operations. The service innovations are, for instance, which have been undertaken in a day-to-day routine activity for a business organization about how do we conduct or how do we deliver a service to the customers. These particular services that have been delivered to the customers are of a form in which the various operational and supply chain activities have been undertaken in a business organization. These particular activities may be undertaken for a shorter period or may be undertaken for a longer period. The applications and innovations and service operations deals with how do we effectively use the amount of technology that is made available, and every technology or every service that we are delivering to the customers is available at fingertips. So using of various tools, techniques and technology which will ease the delivery of service to the customers is the concept of using the service operations or improving the innovations in the business activities. Now let's understand what are the various main processes for the applications and innovations and business operations. On the various business ecosystem partnerships, we have various platforms as to the digital operations, digital business and digital foundations. And the second underlying factor or the pillar is automation and innovation labs, which are available at the different departments or the organizations. The factors or the components that roll around or that circulate around the organizations are machines, employees, customers, partners, artificial intelligence, that is AI, experience of the people, the cloud computing, and the talent management. So these are the various factors which you can see at the numerator level and the denominator. That is upper slide and the lower bottom of this particular slide are the concepts which are available within the organization, and they are always circulating and they are rotating, wherein either there are certain inputs that have been received from them or there are certain outputs that has been given by them. The various components of digital operations, digital business, and digital foundations are the day-to-day operational activities that have been undertaken, which try to identify about what changes can be undertaken in a business organization and how do we can bring various amount of innovations for the better effective product delivery. In case of digital operations, the implementations can be undertaken in terms of integrated IT operations, cybersecurity, that is fusion centers, and lastly, the process operations. So how do we effectively create a digital platform due to which the activities that have been undertaken in a business organization in terms of a digital activity are very effective, and how those processes can be streamlined in an operational way. So using of various integrated IT operational activities, implementing of certain cybersecurity forces and the platforms through which the various fusion centers can be created, and they can prevent a certain threat from the internal or the external sources, and creating the process activities which is always digitalized is the concept of application of digital operations. The second perspective, that is how do we conduct a digital business? It can be conducted with the help of consulting, that is appointment of various consultants or the third party agents, application of various digital platforms, that is when we use a digital business scenario, what business platforms can be used, what business ideas can be implemented, and you can approach the people or the public at large are the perspectives of the digital applications. The insights that can be implemented, that is the various valuable inputs that can be provided by the customers, by the stakeholders, by the money lenders, by the government agencies, and so on. So that are the perspectives of insights. And lastly, the perspectives of IoT, that is Internet of Things. So how we can effectively use IoT, that is Internet of Things, and the business activities can be undertaken in a very effective way to portray your business in a very effective consideration in a digital format. So digital business portray is essentially important, and on those particular basis, the IoT can be created in a very effective way. Now let us understand what are the various digital foundation tools which can be used for the better consideration of the business organization or an environment. The various digital foundation activities are: the number one is the hybrid cloud, the digital workspace, the unified service management, and the cybersecurity and GRC. That is a particular amount of service center or a research center that can be used for the day-to-day operational activities or control of technical activities in the business organization. So When we implement the various hybrid cloud, digital workplace, and unified service management, the activities are always conducted in a very better and effective way. And we have a foundation stone of control of all the activities in a digitalized mode, that is from a cloud software. Now let us understand what are the various ideas or types of digital activities that can be implemented in a business organization. Number one, that is an incremental innovation. Number two, that is a disruptive innovation. And number three is architectural innovation. So in case of an incremental innovation, it always looks or identifies about how various increments or how various new avenues can be added to a certain product or to a particular service, and in which way we can continue with a certain product or a service delivery that can be undertaken in a business organization. So identification of service operations management with respect to effective service delivery in the short run or in the long run on the basis of various innovations that can be undertaken is called as an incremental innovation. The disruptive innovation. Now, disruptive innovation is a particular feature or a factor which takes into consideration or identifies about certain activities that needs to be eliminated after a certain point of time. So when a particular activity needs to be discontinued, what time schedule should be identified for each and every single activity is a component of an disruptive innovation. Now, the next perspective is architectural innovation. In case of an architectural innovation, one needs to identify and design or structure a certain formats or certain policies on the basis of changes in the structure, changes in the modes of businesses, and changes in modes of market scenario. So when, according to the changes in the market scenario, we change the various plans, policies, and strategies, such type of activity that have been undertaken on the changes that have been implemented are called as an architectural innovation. Now let's take an example of service innovation. So in order to implement a good and effective service innovation, we must have the various tools and techniques or steps that needs to be undertaken. The first step is using the product enhancement. So what we need to do is we need to always enhance the product that has been available in the business organization. And in order to enhance the product, various product development and process development technique needs to be implemented. And for those particular consideration, the use of various enhancement techniques is essentially important. And on those particular basis, various changes in the product that are needed to be incorporated. The second perspective is maintenance plan. So on the basis of various maintenance plans, we can modify, we can change the product that we are manufacturing, that we are using. And accordingly, the maintenance plan helps to define and identify about how effective product service delivery can be undertaken in the business organization. So maintenance plans plays a very important role, and it helps to identify about how effective products can be delivered and what various modifications or changes are being required in the product quality or commodity. The next third perspective is the customer support. So on the basis of various customer support, a proper and continuous feedback from the customer should be undertaken in order to identify about how those particular activities can be completed in the various effective time duration and how we can come to a conclusion as to effective product delivery in the short run as well as in the long run. The customer support, whenever it is been required, all those particular customer support should be provided 24/7, and at a just phone call away, we must be made available to the customers about for the effective delivery of a certain product or a certain service. And hence, the example of service innovation deals with a certain perception or consideration about how effective service can be delivered and in what way the innovation strategies can be implemented in a business organization. The fourth perspective is information and education. So the concept of information and education focuses on what information do we provide to the customers and how do we educate our customers. Simultaneously, the information and education about our product, about our organization, and the education of the market consideration or the market scenario as to how it is been changing, what is the changes in the need, taste, habit, preferences of a certain consumers or the customers is essentially needs to be identified. And on those particular basis, we need to identify and we need to get educated ourselves, and we need to provide the information to the internal management as well as to the external management. The fifth perspective is the service innovation is the warranties. Warranties is a particular stipulation which is collateral to the main purpose of contract, the breach of which would give the rights to contract to be repudiated and claim damages. So accordingly, whatever damages that have been created, or if the warranty is not been fulfilled for a certain product, then accordingly how various service innovation activities can be undertaken, and we can provide a better effective service to the customers. So that is the perspectives of implementing a warranty. The sixth perspective is a particular part of a guarantee. So guarantee is a particular type of a contract or a particular service agreement in which if a particular person does not perform their promises respectively, then a particular third party can come forward and he may give you a certain guarantee about conduction of those activities in a particular short run period, that is for a specific point of time. So that's the concept of guarantee that can be implemented in a business organization. The next perspective is the operational innovation. Now let's understand what do we mean by the operational innovations. Operational innovations are the certain activities which are always been undertaken for coming up with the entire new ways for fulfilling the orders. So whichever orders that have been coming in the business organization, in order to fulfill those particular orders which are completely new in nature, the steps, measures, or activities that have been initiated, such type of activity that have been initiated or that have been undertaken are called as an operational innovations activities. The next perspective is developing a certain product. So operational innovation activities are been related with developing a new product. So whatever new product that we are developing, how do we develop that particular new product as per the need, requirement, and suggestions of a certain customers, whatever suggestion or the feedbacks that have been undertaken, and how do we develop a certain product as per the requirement of a certain market consideration of this scenario. Such type of scenario is been called as a operational innovations. Providing the customer service. So always or at certain times, operational innovations have been undertaken for providing the better customer service. In case if the customer is not happy with a certain product, then accordingly, if he needs a certain additional point of service, and how those particular service can be delivered to the customers, and accordingly, how we can see that the customer is very happy and satisfied about the product that we are offering or that we are delivering to him. The next perspective is doing any other activity than an enterprise performs. So apart from the regular activity or the operational activities or a set of series of activities, if any activities additionally needs to be undertaken, then what type of operational or innovative activities have been undertaken by the business organization? Such type of enterprise activity that is being performed are called as an operational innovative activities. Now let's take an example of a Microsoft Intelligent Business Application Platform. So with this particular example, you will be able to understand how various operational activities or the service operational activities needs to be undertaken and in what way those particular activities can be performed in a very better way. So on the left hand side, you can see that there are various factors or various components as to the part of productivity. So in case of productivity, it's a various components of the Power BI. It's a composition of Outlook, a Yogometer, Project Manager, a Skype, and a SharePoint. So these are the various softwares or the various tools and techniques on which basis the productivity of a particular product or a particular scenario can be identified in a very better or effective way. The second major component or the major activity or the business application platform for the Microsoft is Dynamics 365 business application. So on those particular basis, we need to identify and understand about what are the various dynamics, and those particular dynamics are related to the sales, the field service, the project service automation, the operational activities, the marketing activities, the customer service, and the accounting. So it is a part of a series of business operational activities which been undertaken, and it's a subcomposition of all the technical activities that have been undertaken. So a business application platform of Microsoft is a subcomponent of all those activities, which is always dynamic in nature. That is, it is always changing. That is the number of sales figure, the number of customer services, the marketing initiatives or activities, the operational activities, the accounting activities, or that is the finance and the budget, always keeps on changing and is always dynamic. So here in this case, we need to identify what are the various business applications and how those particular applications can be implemented in a business organization for the effective operational conductions. The third perspective is the third-party applications. So on the basis of various third-party applications, you have various Microsoft application stores, and accordingly, other data sources and Microsoft application stores are available. And the supporting activities, whether a particular application is supported with the Microsoft or a particular application which is not supported with the Microsoft. So from those particular basis, we need to identify which are the third-party applications and which is supporting and which is not supporting. The next perspective, or the last red color, which is of a major consideration or the optional or additional perspective, is purpose building apps. So custom applications that have been built by the applications, composed workflow by the Microsoft workflow, and so on. So these particular type of activities or the operational activities are of an important nature. Unless and until those particular applications are available, no activity can be performed or it can be undertaken of a Microsoft. So the custom applications which have been powered by the applications of the Microsoft, and composite workflow by the Microsoft workflow is essentially required. So these are the various process activities which are being essentially required, and without those particular consideration, the activity cannot be completed. So that's an example of Microsoft Intelligent Business Application Platform or a particular software. Now let us understand what are the various characteristics of successful service delivery innovations. The service delivery innovations are always completely depend on various factors. So those particular factors are number one, a networked organization. So we should have a proper network, proper organization of networks in which one activity is being coordinated with other activities, and hence we can come to a conclusion as to identification about how those activities can be well coordinated. So a networked organization is essentially important, and on which basis we need to an understanding or conclusion about how those activities can be conducted in a very better and effective way. So a network of organization of all the service delivery innovations of all the participants in the business organization is essentially important, and on those particular basis a healthy environment or communication platform can be created. The second characteristic is the flexible workflow. Flexible workflow is communication between all the departments and movement of one product department to another product department, and exchange of or the having effective transfer pricing policy. So flexible workflow is essentially important, wherein any person or any individual needs to identify a certain scenario on which basis the workflow activities can be initiated. Then such activities should be very flexible, and accordingly all those activities should be moving from one department to another department in a very effective way. So that's the concept of flexible workflow. The next perspective is the concept of global sourcing. So on the basis of global sourcing, one can easily identify as what are the various global opportunities, and on those particular basis, how those particular opportunities can be identified and they can be fulfilled. The next perspective or the characteristics of successful service delivery is client and supplier collaboration. So what collaboration do we have with the various suppliers, with the various dealers, and in what way those particular activities can be implemented in the business organization. So identification of those activities of the clients and the suppliers is essentially important, and we need to have a proper communication between those series of activities. The next consideration is the continuous innovation. So there should be an applicability of continuous innovation, which takes into account about how those activities can be coordinated in the business organization, and how continuous innovation as to the product development, product revisions, process improvements can be undertaken for the better product delivery. The next perspective or the last consideration is enabling the technology. So we must always enable the technology, and effective usage of tools, techniques, and technology needs to be there in business organization to identify as to how effective and qualitative products can be delivered and the service can be very effective. Now let's understand what are the various service innovation improvements. So the various steps or the activities for the service innovation improvements are establishing an online experience. So being on the entire world in a virtual mode, we must always have an establishment of an online experience wherein the customer can get a pre-experience about what the product is and how the innovation or the product can be available for the customers for its day-to-day usage. So establishing an online experience for a customer is essentially important, and it acts as an improvement as a part of an additional advancements in the customer service delivery. Offering a customer loyalty program. So we must offer a loyalty program to the customers, which in turn will offer a certain product for a feasible delivery. And when the customer loyalty program is been offered, he gets continuously associated with the business organization, and accordingly, a continuous healthy relationship is being created with the customers, and he keeps on purchasing our product for a continual basis or on ongoing basis. Providing a customer success manager. So accordingly, we must always provide a success manager or a relationship manager, which will be always in connect with a certain customer, and they will be having a healthy or good relationship for the continuous ongoing business activities, which has been undertaken for the ongoing period. Redesigning your onboarding. So whenever a particular customer is being onboarded, we must have a proper redesigning policy as to when the service is to be delivered, what service changes or requirements have been there, what are the various time or the service contract that needs to be renewed, how or when it needs to be renewed, and what are the various time deadlines as to the delivery of services to a certain product. So redesigning of the onboarding service contracts is also essentially important, and improvements in those particular contract needs to be implemented. Adoption of new support channels. So whatever new support channels have been required, how do we implement or how do we add to those particular support channels, and in what way those particular support channels can be implemented or connected in the business organization are essentially required, and how we develop the service categories of the business consideration needs to be understood. The next consideration or the beneficial of the service innovation improvement is adding a chatbot to our website. So when a particular chatbot is added to a particular website, the customer can immediately drop a certain question, and the particular answer, that is a predefined answer, can be provided to a customer at a very easy stage. So the customer need not to wait to get a phone call or a call back from a certain company, that is a service representative desk, and accordingly the answers to the service delivery or the answers to the queries to a certain questions are being provided to the customers at a very effective and at a very immediate stage. Gamifying the pre and post purchase experiences. So we must gamify, and accordingly we must see that the experience of the customers as to the pre-purchase and the post-purchase decision are very effective, and they are very happy and pleasant and satisfied with the decision of a certain purchase. And lastly, looking for the opportunities to automate. That is automation of opportunity as to the product delivery, process delivery, communication with the customers, communication in the short run, and how we need to create an additional point of sale for the second purchase or repurchase for a certain customers. Now let us understand what are modern day disruptive innovations which have been organized or which have been associated or which have been observed. The various modern day disruptive innovations are steel mini mills, the video streaming, the radios, the online encyclopedia and the references, the smartphones, the personal computers, the retail medical clinics, the photographies. So these are the various modern day disruptive innovations which creates a certain consideration as to how the disruptions can be created and it can impact the purchase decision. So accordingly, the service delivery for a certain product or a service innovations in terms of either the product improvement or the process improvement may hamper with respect to any of these particular factor or the modern day scenarios which are made available. May it be a radio, maybe it be an online platforms, maybe it be a smartphone, maybe personal computers or the photographies. Now let us understand what are the various activities that have been undertaken for the better effective service delivery. So the various activities that have been undertaken are with respect to the Oracle, that is an EBS, Oracle SaaS platform as a part of a service, data and analytics that can be delivered, application modernization and test automation. So the various services that you can see here is in case of an Oracle and EBS, that is releasing of upgradations and managements of certain softwares, application of certain goods, services, certain commodities, and so on. So on those particular basis, the service activities can be undertaken and they can be delivered to the business organization. The Oracle SaaS, that is related to the SaaS roadmap, data convergence, managed services, release of the impact and assessments, and so on. So on those particular basis, various platforms or services can be delivered and the Oracle SaaS can be identified. So these are the various services and activities that have been undertaken as a part of an one service delivery in which a particular business organization can identify about what are the various different type of services that can be delivered. Now let's understand what are the 5 steps to implement an innovation. So how innovation can be implemented in a business organization. Number 1, that is spotting the opportunities for the innovation. Number 2, prioritizing the opportunities. Number 3, testing your potential innovations. Number 4, building your support for the innovation. And number 5, learning from their innovation efforts. So these are the various 5 steps through which we can implement a better innovation strategy, and the innovation strategy that can be implemented will help the organization as well as customers or the consumers to get a better service delivery. So we can conclude and we can identify or we can learn from this particular session is operational innovation tactics or strategies are essentially important. And in the long run, in the today's technical or the modern era, the drastical changes in the economics, in the technology or in the service delivery is been undertaken at the various functional level. So everything right from the enterprise management to the structure or the management strategies have to be understanding of certain adjustments, and it needs to be often very qualitative in nature. So we must always have a very front-end innovation processes, which always try to deliver the qualitative services to the individual, to the customers, and accordingly, those particular services should be of an effective nature that will help to increase the customer satisfaction and will lead to a level that the customer is happy, satisfied with the product or the service that he has purchased. And various research into it has shown that customer requirement in specific market segments or product categories is always of an upkeeping nature, which will always identify what is the future market potential for your product or for your service. Now let's summarize what we have learned in this particular session. In this particular session, we have understood what do we mean by the applications in innovations and service operations, what are the various activities that have been performed in applications in innovations and the service operations, and lastly, what are the various benefits that have been associated in terms of applications, that how do we innovate a particular service, and what are the various service operations activities that have been undertaken in a business organization. I hope you must have enjoyed the learning in this particular session. We'll stay connected and we'll continue with our learning. Thank you for your patience listening. Thank you.